As the year 1975 was about to begin, Carlos Kleiber's second recording was due to appear about 18 months after his recording debut in Weber's Der Freischütz, which had made such an exceptionally strong and widespread impression. Now the public's expectation was as curious as it was high, and that's because he'd chosen a work that might be called an old warhorse. What would he sound like conducting Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and leading an orchestra in it that had a particularly world-famous tradition in this music, the Vienna Philharmonic? Well, Carlos Kleiber conducting the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra in Beethoven's Fifth Symphony sounded unmistakably like Carlos Kleiber.
As almost any trained ear can tell, within 3 bars, you know if it's a Kleiber performance.
How? Many reasons, but especially through the combination of extraordinary unanimous articulation, rhythmic strength, and yet also elastic flexibility. From my own personal experience playing for Carlos Kleiber, I can attest that he often very specifically did ask for the extremely incisive and highly characterized articulation that he so strikingly obtained from every orchestra that he conducted. And he also did very specifically ask for the dozens and dozens of minute details of nuances that were pinpointed so brilliantly characterfully in his performances. But when it came to that compelling balance of high precision and supple flexibility, well, that was in his physical conducting, as were, at the end of the day, also all those other elements that he specifically asked for in his rehearsals. I think it was most remarkable of all that he sounded so instantaneously recognizable as himself with the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. And that's because this great famous ensemble has always had a particular tradition of its own in most of the music that Carlos Kleiber conducted with them during his career. Always a very critical orchestra, they admired him enormously, although the relationship had an uncommon background.
Die erste Begegnung war, was ich mich so erinnern kann, eigentlich vom Standpunkt des Musikers aus eher negativ.
The Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra's first meeting with Kleiber was from a musical standpoint actually rather negative. We played Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in Bratislava. He was very nervous and very agitated, and so he was hardly able to conduct at all. Musicians really need a person of authority standing in front of them, and he made an impression that he was actually a rather insecure person. In fact, it was pretty hard for the chairman to get Kleiber to go through with the concert and conduct the symphony. The musicians were really afraid that he wouldn't be able to get through the whole piece. In fact, when the concert took place, it was pretty special, and it seemed obvious that he was a remarkable person with great musical ability, but it was in no way foreseeable then that he would become such a great conductor later.
Dass so eine großartige Dirigentenkarriere vor sich hatte.
And it took some time before Carlos Kleiber was able to feel confident in himself with the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, as it indeed did when he was conducting anywhere.
In the concert, he was well aware that we were a little bit nervous. But that was also one interesting aspect when, at the moment, he was extremely nervous, we all know. And we realized in many situations. But when he himself realized that there was some kind of nervosity within the orchestra, then he would react in a very human way. And then it was completely easy, and he would help, and maybe that his nervosity vanished in some respects.
For all the nervous difficulties that Carlos Kleiber transmitted to the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra in the early times of his conducting them, the players soon realized that he was a truly phenomenal talent, and that it was 100% worth having to pay the particular kind of price that was necessary for that in his case.
Kleiber war natürlich voller Komplexe. War wirklich unsicher, das stimmt.
Kleiber was a person with a lot of issues. He was certainly insecure, and with his insecurities sometimes some kind of aggression could occur. The Vienna Philharmonic first really got to know Kleiber properly at the Vienna State Opera. He conducted La Bohème, Tristan und Isolde, and also Der Rosenkavalier. That's when it became obvious what a genius he really was. But it also became obvious that he was a very sensitive person and sometimes hard to deal with. The Vienna Philharmonic used to have a general manager in the United States, and when I was the Vorstand, he said to me, "Please send Mr. Kleiber to a psychiatrist or psychologist at some point, because it's really impossible to talk to him without any problems anymore." But I said I would never do that, because if you would really send Mr. Kleiber to a psychologist, he wouldn't be the same person again, and he probably wouldn't be the same conductor anymore.
So wie wir ihn gekannt hätten. Und ich glaube, er hätte dann auch nicht mehr so musizieren können, wie er das getan hat.
As time went by, Carlos Kleiber began to understand that the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra really did value him tremendously, even though he was always doubtful of any praise they gave him, as he was of any praise that anyone gave him. But in actual fact, though for very different reasons indeed, that's also how the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra can feel when they receive praise. Doubtful.
Wiener Philharmonikern ist es halt so, dass sie jemanden da vorn brauchen, der sich...
The Vienna Philharmonic is an orchestra that needs a conductor who really challenges them. Someone who is not just happy with everything that they give him, but who is sometimes unhappy with what they do. Kleiber always seemed unhappy, and he really challenged the orchestra all the time.
fordern konnte. Das war er.
And in this music, Carlos Kleiber truly was challenging many aspects of the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra's famous Schubert tradition, in his very taut control and his high nervous intensity. But still, despite this, capturing in his way the music's essential charm and grace. There were still one or two times when there was serious tension between Carlos Kleiber and the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, and on one notorious occasion he walked out at a rehearsal and he didn't come back for a few years. But when he did return, the orchestra extended their arms out to him because they loved and they prized the unique inspiration that he brought to them.
I was lucky to have played quite often with Carlos Kleiber, and the best concerts I have ever played with this orchestra was on the Mexico tour with Carlos Kleiber. In the concerts there was such a tension with him, it was incredible, and I think everybody played twice as good as normal.